This is the most disturbing thing I've seen a judge do in a long time. So this is Judge Benitez. He sits in San Diego. So he had somebody in front of him who had violated the terms of his probation, and he was up for sentencing. Basically, are you going to go back to jail? What are we going to do here? Well, the guy told the judge, hey, I got to get out of San Diego. I'm not a bad guy. I have a 13-year-old daughter. She's here in the courtroom with me today. I want to make a better life for her. So Judge Benitez responded by having the sheriff handcuff that girl who was just standing in the courtroom. He then brought the girl who was crying this whole time to go sit where the jury sits. And the judge took it upon himself to lecture the girl and tell her, if you do drugs, this is what's going to happen to you. And then the judge went ahead and sentenced the guy to 10 months in prison. Putting aside the trauma for this 13-year-old girl, there's a somewhat silver lining, happy ending. The guy got transferred to another judge who didn't sentence him to any jail time, and there's a formal complaint against Judge Benitez.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me here for Conversations with Taz, and this is our bonus episode, so we can finish up the topics that we didn't get a chance to talk to last night, because I try not to keep y'all here for the whole night. I know you like hanging out with me, but, it's the weekend. So whether you're seeing this live or later on, because I know a lot of y'all, when I have weekend episodes, you do like to wait till Monday or Tuesday. But hey, thank you for tuning in. And make sure, as always, to click subscribe and click the little bell so that you're updated on any and all videos that I upload to this channel. And in the link tree, there's also my backup channel, because people are now liking to report this channel. I don't know why. I think I'm cute and cuddly, but it is what it is. But let's keep going. Child. As always, unfortunately, hold on, let me get my mouse together. Let's start with the DeSantis news, and then we'll circle back to Rachel Dolezal 2.0. Let's go.
So Disney loses self-governing status. The state of Florida is the new sheriff in town. Thank you. It's so great to be here. Today, the corporate kingdom finally comes to an end. There's a new sheriff in town, and accountability will be the order of the day. And since the 1960s, they've enjoyed privileges unlike any company or individual in the state of Florida has ever enjoyed. They, of course, controlled their own government right here in Central Florida. They had exemptions from laws that everybody else had to follow, and they were able to get huge amounts of benefits without paying their fair share of taxes, and even racked up $700 million worth of municipal debt. So we had a little bit of a tussle last year over school legislation, and Disney came out against something that was really just about protecting young kids and making sure that students are able to go to school learning to read, write, add, and subtract, and not having a teacher tell them that they can change their gender. And I think most parents agree with that. But that was only a mild annoyance. I think that what we came to realize after that dust settled on that was you clearly had a movement within the corporation itself, of course, Burbank, California-based elements of it, that said it's their job or it's their goal to inject a lot of this sexuality into the programming for young kids. And I'm a dad, 6'4" and 2, and my wife and I know parents throughout Florida, we want our kids to be kids. We want them to be able to enjoy entertainment, school, without having an agenda imposed upon them. And so if you're going that way as a corporation, those are not the values that we want to promote in the state of Florida. We want to promote the safety of our students and the rights of our parents. And so now, we're basically, Disney's going to be treated like SeaWorld is treated, or like any of these others, and that's really the fair thing to do. So I'll be signing the bill momentarily, and that will officially end the self-governing status here in Central Florida for Disney. My signature will also end Disney's exemption from the Florida Building Code and Florida Fire Prevention Code. It will end Disney's exemption from state regulatory reviews and approval. It will end Disney's secrecy by finally ensuring transparency about what goes on in this area. It will ensure that Disney pays its fair share of taxes. It will prevent local governments dominated by leftist politicians from using this situation to raise local taxes. So Disney loses self-governing status. The state of Florida is the new sheriff in town. But, I got a lot on my plate. I can't be running this, from the governor's office. So we've created a state control board that is going to be responsible for governing this area. Okay, it is in the books right here.
In today's episode of Ron DeSantis is an absolute bag of shit, we have this gem. DeSantis promises Florida will control Disney content. So what you mean to say is, Ron DeSantis was quoted as saying, "I think all of these board members very much would like to see the type of entertainment that all families can appreciate." And then went on to say he plans on using that board to control the content that Disney creates. But Ron, your takeover of Reedy Creek has nothing to do with what fucking Disney puts out. In fact, this little takeover of Disney that you're championing only has to do with the infrastructure on the Walt Disney World property area. It has zero to do with the company, park operations, stockholder decisions. It has nothing to do with the day-to-day operation of Walt Disney World or the Disney company. You get no say. You get nothing, sir. Good day. The fact that Ron DeSantis is out there saying that he's going to have some type of control over the content that Disney creates with its company is nothing short of fascist. And all of these big corporations that have been donating money to Ron DeSantis are watching what's happening with Disney, and they're starting to second guess exactly why any company at all would want to do business in Florida if this is what could happen to them. Especially considering Disney is one of the largest employers in the state. But bringing Ron DeShitstain back into reality, he has nothing to do with Disney's operations. Zero. None. No matter how much he wants to get on the internet and say he does. Oh man, I am very excited to see the Disney lawyers come out and just completely fucking eviscerate him. Because it's only a matter of time and it's gonna be a chef's kiss.
Hey guys, this is a long video, but it's very important, so please stick around and help me boost this. Last week, we had yet another mass shooting in the United States. This time it took place in Orlando, Florida. Journalist Dylan Lyons was already on the scene reporting on another shooting that day when tragically a mass shooting broke out and took his life and the life of 9-year-old Tiana Major. Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Rick Scott wasted no time trying to quickly politicize this tragic event. DeSantis even went as far as to blame the Orlando prosecutor, Monique Worrell, for being too soft on crime.
I cannot believe they let this guy. You have to hold people accountable. This idea, and I know the district attorney, state attorney in Orlando thinks that you don't prosecute people and that's the way that you somehow have a better communities. That does not work.
Now what DeSantis is referring to is an arrest that was made where 4.6 grams of green substance was discovered on the scene where the suspect was at. However, the prosecutor said it was such a nominal amount and they really couldn't prove who it belonged to that it wasn't It didn't warrant any prosecution. And even if it had, it wouldn't have mattered because he was a juvenile at that time, and under state law, those records are expunged, sealed, they're not public record. So any sort of background investigation or whatever would have taken place for Florida law to buy a weapon, it wouldn't have triggered anything. But what I really want you to watch is the victims' families gave a statement today, and they tore in to Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis. This may possibly destroy both of their political careers. Pay attention and spread this video far and wide.
They are sickened over what they believe has been the exploitation of their children's deaths by Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Rick Scott. Both politicians have taken to the podium, deflecting the issue of gun violence in America and their support of essentially insane, barely restricted gun laws and open carry legislation, which will only cause more needless and innocent deaths. They have intentionally or ignorantly suggested others may be blamed for gun violence and the causes that led to this murderous rampage, when it is actually the belief that it is their own policies and rhetoric that enables such behavior and actions. Governor DeSantis and Senator Scott have intentionally, and with what appears to be malice, conspired with one another in a coordinated effort to paint a false narrative, defaming and somehow accusing the state attorney, Monique Worrell, for some responsibility here. Shame on them. Adjudication of delinquency by a court with respect to any child who has committed a delinquent act or violation of law shall not be deemed a conviction. Simply put, a juvenile adjudication is not a criminal conviction. One would think that a governor and a U.S. senator who used to be governor should at least know the basics of Florida law. Are they lying, or are they intentionally trying to deceive the public, or merely just ignorant? No juvenile in Florida, let me repeat that, no juvenile in Florida who has gone through juvenile courts has a conviction on their record. And DeSantis and Scott's twisting of the truth seems to be nothing more than an attempt to pervert the truth and deceive and mislead the public. Moreover, the understanding is that all the previous arrests, plea agreements, and sentencings of this murderer occurred before State Attorney Monique Worrell had ever been elected to or taken office. Easy access to deadly firearms, including people such as this killer, who was apparently legally allowed to have one, is the issue that DeSantis and Scott are avoiding and deflecting. The families have wanted the memories of their loved ones to be the focus and not be thrusted into politics of two opportunistic politicians, DeSantis and Scott, whose primary concerns seem to be about furthering their selfish political ambitions. The families believe this all smells and smacks of political opportunism by both DeSantis and Scott, and it is appalling to them. If DeSantis and Scott truly cared about these victims, then they could have not only reached out to them, but they could have been addressing the issues of gun violence and reasonable and sane gun legislation instead of avoiding the issue. Instead, they seemingly are attempting to capitalize on the death of these families' children by going after a political adversary. As such, the families have decided they cannot stand silent or idly by while they are grieving their lost ones, believing that they and their loved ones are being used as tools and political pawns by DeSantis and Scott. The families are united in their disgust over Governor DeSantis and Senator Scott as they seem to be exploiting their dead children for their own political agendas, twisting the facts as to mislead the public as to the reality of the situation. They are sickened that DeSantis and Scott have made time to take to a podium and issue a joint statement condemning the office of the state attorney, filled with half-truths and false propaganda, where they never have even reached out to the grieving families to offer condolences or any expression of sympathy, as Monique Worrell, the state attorney, or Sheriff John Mina, or Mayor Demings have. And I will also mention Mayor Dyer has as well. DeSantis and Scott have plenty of time, though, to be political showboats for the media, but not enough compassion to extend sympathy to the very families whose dead children they appear to be using for their own political gain. Both families are strong and are resolute in their convictions not to allow their children to have died in vain, or for them to be used as political pawns by DeSantis and Scott, when the true issue of sane and responsible gun laws is being deflected and avoided by these gun-loving politicians.
Oh my God, that was brutal. those parents, let them have it, as they should. These politicians on the right, they have absolutely no shame. They don't care. They will use the most horrific, tragic events to further their political career. They didn't even reach out to these victims, and this is in their own state. But you know who did? Val Demings, who is a Democrat, and she's not up for re-election this year, so it's not a political gain for her. Please, open your eyes and your heart. Pay attention to what they do and not what they say.
The fucked up news for today is, would you like to see what fascism looks like? And you thought fucking Trump had thin skin? This is the most I want to be like Adolf Hitler fucking bill you could introduce. A new bill in Florida would require bloggers writing about Ron DeSantis to register with their state or be fined. Anybody getting paid to write about Ron DeSantis would have to register with the State Ethics Commission or be fined. Nothing screams I want to be a fascist like, attacking the free press. Well, not only do they want to ban the Democrat Party in Florida, they want to attack the press. So if you're a reporter or a news organization or a blogger or anybody, if you write about Ron DeSantis, you're going to be fucking fined if you don't register. There is no excuse for this. There is no debating this. There is no discord going to happen around this. This is fascist as fuck. Plain and simple. There's no amount of mental gymnastics you can play to spin this. For fuck's sakes.
Well, it's a good thing I don't get paid to do what I do online. I do not have a monetized account. And here's the thing. For the people who came after me a year and a half ago, thank you. Because the accounts that I had that were monetized no longer exist. So y'all are the gift that keeps on giving. But remember, Ron DeSantis is a part of the grand old party, the GOP, the grifting on purpose people. I thought y'all stood for small government. There seems to be a whole lot of big government that you all are cheering on, especially regarding Ron DeSantis in Florida. And there are so many GOP Floridians, still not the majority. That's why he had to redistrict and gerrymander in order to get reelected in Florida. Which I'm like, you were asked period point blank, were you going to run for president? Were you going to complete your gubernatorial stint? And we all know you're not. But I digress. This isn't going to fly across all of the states and commonwealths that make up the United States. Yeah, you heard what I said. The states and commonwealths. I know y'all love with your PR campaign to go the 50 states. No, there are some states and there's some commonwealths. Now, before we get to the whole black fishing scandal, we have more GOP pretenders. But I thought that they were good Christians, Taz. I thought that they were all honest, Taz. Who told you that? Who told you that?
Move over George Santos. In what is turning out to be a remarkable freshman class of new Republican legislators in Washington, we've also got this gentleman, Tennessee Republican Congressman Andy Ogles. Mr. Ogles has described himself multiple times as an economist. Now, what is an economist, really? Who can say? They call it the dismal science for a reason. But you might guess, at a minimum, that if you're going to call yourself an economist, that implies you have some training in economics. Alas, no. News Channel 5 WTVF in Nashville has looked into that and discovered that, in fact, Congressman Andy Ogles has no degree in economics. WTVF found that Mr. Ogles in his life has taken a grand total of one community college course in economics, which he barely passed. And that was the extent of his collegiate work in the subject. Congressman Ogles also said that he graduated from Vanderbilt's Graduate Business School, which would be very impressive. In reality, he reportedly took executive education classes, which is a short-term non-degree program where you get a certificate. Thanks for showing up. Not actually a graduate degree, which requires years of a commitment. Congressman Andy Ogles also claimed that he was a former member of law enforcement who worked in international sex crimes, specifically child trafficking. That experience in law enforcement maybe was him serving for 2 years as a volunteer reserve deputy in one county sheriff's office, a volunteer position from which, according to WTVF, he was released because he didn't meet the minimum standards even for that. For good measure, that sheriff's office said that Congressman Ogles had no involvement in international sex crimes. Congressman Ogles also claimed to have a degree in international relations. Turns out that, too, is a lie. And he's sort of now admitting that that's horse hockey. A little over a week ago, his office was saying it was a simple case of condensing a resume for the sake of brevity on the campaign trail. And it's partisan hacks who are trying to turn this into a headline for clicks. That was last week. Now, this week, we have a new explanation for his claim that he earned a degree in international relations. The congressman today released a statement saying, I previously stated my degree was in international relations. When I pulled up my transcript to verify, I realized I was mistaken. My degree, turns out, is in liberal studies. I apologize for my misstatement. Who among us hasn't completely forgotten what we majored in college and had to check it on the transcript? I do wonder if there's something about the words majored in liberal studies that could explain why this Republican in Congress left that out of his biography and made something else instead. What kind of studies did you say? What do you have an actual degree in? Watch this space.
So we're up to what, 5 that were elected that we know lied. We know about, I lost count of how many were not elected that blatantly lied about their resumes, their credentials. This is the second one with Herschel Walker that I can recall. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, that lied about having a law enforcement background. And we know how much the GOP sycophants love anybody with any type of policing background or military background. So it makes you wonder once again why Ron DeSantis keeps trying to hide his background in education as well as his background in the military. I mean, we already went over that, but you catch what I'm putting down. Now, let's get into the latest case of blackfishing in real life. We're going to talk about it on the other end. I know I've touched on this phenomenon on TikTok in a few lives. We'll probably dive into it again in a back and forth on TikTok after this podcast, but let's get into this latest Rachel Dolezal.
What in the Rachel Dolezal is happening here? Raquel Avita Saraswati, aka Rachel Elizabeth Seidel, is a diversity executive in Philly who recently resigned from her role as the Equity and Inclusion Officer at AFSC. This comes after allegations that she misrepresented her Arab, Latin, and South Asian heritage, and there is even speculation that she darkens her skin tone deliberately. She is accused of cultural vulturism, a practice in which an individual represents themselves as having a culture other than their own. Raquel is standing by her identity despite her family confirming that she's of German, British, and Calabrese Italian heritage. And the deception cuts deeper because she actively works with the minority communities that she claims to be from. What do you think?
Here's the thing. People who keep getting exposed left and right for this generally have Black, brown, indigenous people of color backing them. The same people that you will see in real life and in the social media stratosphere, reminding people to not conflate nationality, ethnicity, and race, but they will do it for the sake of this person that they will tell you is doing so much for the community. Now, two instances we see people working with the communities they claim to be a part of, but mostly you see people culturally vulturing to sow discourse. Usually, generally, it's these people will fake it to never make it, to just argue with women of color, to just be able to dox women of color, just to be able to talk shit about women of color. But these are the same people that will tell you white privilege, white fragility doesn't exist, all these different things. But they realize their mediocrity isn't making them notable. So they cosplay us. They cosplay the melanated while still utilizing their privilege and what they learned through their privilege. And they always want to double, triple, quadruple down. Family members will come out and expose them. They'll pull out birth certificates. They'll bring the whole videos from the whole family reunion. Like, baby, we white, Lily white, Casper white. And they're saying, you know, I am a woman of color. Honey, spray tan does not make you a woman of color. You were still easily defeated by UV rays. Like, everybody wants to be melanated till it's time to be melanated. Because I'm pretty sure if they would call for our heads, they'd be white in an instant. Whew. Now, y'all, it's been a while since I brought you an update regarding the Idaho murder suspect, and we have a lot of them. So let's get into it. Get you a snack, turn up the volume, go refill your glasses, because you don't want to hear about this.
Breaking news, authorities found a knife at the home of Brian Kohberger's parents' home in the Poconos. Within the search performed, they looked in Brian Kohberger's vehicle, the garage, his parents' home, as well as a shed on the property. Here is a list of those items collected from those various areas. This information has been revealed by newly unsealed documents from Pennsylvania. Labeled as number 1 is knife. In addition, if you look at number 4, they also took a GUN. Number 5 states that they took a Smith & Wesson knife. If you look at number 14, it states that they took 3 mags for a GUN. Number 16 states that they took a black face mask. 18 and 19 state that they took a black hat and black gloves. They also listed what they collected from the vehicle of Brian Kohberger. They took a door panel, headrest, a seatbelt, and a seat cushion. Additionally, they took a visor along with brake and gas pedals. Lastly, they took band-aids, maps, and other documents. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments. Breaking news, here's a list of every item collected from the home of Brian Kohberger's parents. A knife, a book with underlying on page 118, AT&T bill for Brian Kohberger, a Glock 22, a Smith & Wesson pocket knife, a folder containing vehicle paperwork, an Acer laptop, a green leafy substance in a plastic container, documents, a green leafy substance in a plastic bag, books, a black face mask, a prescription, and black gloves. Black hat, 1 black mask, personal identifying documents, New Balance shoes, dark colored jacket, dark jackets, dark colored shirts, dark colored pants, clear plastic gloves, laptop with damage, record of sale of a GUN, an item photographed but not taken, note in desk, criminal psychology book, documents, an extra large Columbia fleece, hand drawing, 10 non-legible gloves in a box, various criminology books, a license, and a card. Dark colored hats, black gloves, motherboard, Washington State University paperwork, a note from Brian from Montana, medical documents, court documents, a note to dad from Brian, colored spiral notebook, dark colored clothing, HP all-in-one computer, dark clothes in a laundry basket, tailor cutlery knife with a leather sheath, 4 buckle swabs, 2 pairs of dark colored boots, and 1 bound pair of boots. I know the handwriting was very hard to read. I hope this clarifies things. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments. Breaking news. Newly released documents reveal that they not only found a knife at the home of Brian Kohberger's parents in the Poconos, but they also found a note written from Brian Kohberger to his father. As you can see labeled number 50 on the collection sheet, it is a note to Dad from Brian. I have an entire video posted on what they collected on page 1, so I will be starting on page 2. As you can see labeled number 21 is a pair of New Balance shoes. Brian Kohberger's father was photographed wearing New Balance shoes on multiple occasions. They also took a lot of various items. Pause to read. On page 3, if you look at number 46, they collected a note from Brian from Montana. If you would like to read the other various items on the page, pause to read. As you can see, labeled number 57, they also collected a Taylor cutting knife with a leather sheath. It also states that they collected 4 swab samplings. They did not specify who the individuals were. However, we do know on information released prior that one of them was Brian Kohberger. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments. Breaking news, the judge has now unsealed a private Zoom meeting regarding the conflict of interest with Representative Ann Taylor. They have now unsealed and released the court minutes regarding that Zoom meeting. Within it discussed the conflict of interest with Ann Taylor, Brian Kohberger's public defender. The conflict of interest arose as she had represented one of the victim's mothers previously. However, Ann Taylor stated that when she was assigned the case in 2017, she never had any physical contact with Xana's mother. She says she never met Xana's mother nor provided her any legal advice. Ann Taylor went on to state that her name is on all of the public defending documents whether she is representing the individual or not. Furthermore, she states that the individual that did represent Xana's mother in 2017 left their practice in September or October of this year. She also stated that there was a felony case that she was not assigned to that they have conflicted out of. They also asked Brian Kohberger if he felt comfortable proceeding with Ann Taylor as his public defendant, in which he concurred. In closing, the state said there is a lot of speculation regarding this case and they want all representatives and anyone involved in the case to stick to the facts. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments. Breaking news, here is a walkthrough with images of what they collected from Brian Kohberger. 1 silver flashlight, 4 medical style gloves, 1 white Arizona Jean Co t-shirt, 1 black WSU Champion brand sweatshirt, 1 pair of men's Nike black and white shoes, size 13, 1 pair of Under Armour socks, 1 pair of Under Armour black shorts, 1 pair of Under Armour boxers, and 1 buccal swab, which is the swabbing of the inside of one's cheek for a DNA sample. And due to the confusion yesterday, I would like to clarify that these items were collected from Brian Kohberger's person, not the home of his parents in the Poconos. In addition to those items collected, they were also asked to seize from the home in the Poconos and Brian Kohberger's car any personal belongings of Ethan, Xana, Maddie, or Kaylee. In addition, they also wanted to collect any documents, records, or data related to the crime in Idaho. They were also asked to seize any dark-colored clothing, any masks, or any diamond-soled shoes. The images that I provided were stock images, not actual photos of Brian Kohberger's belongings. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments. Breaking news, they have now unsealed Brian Kohberger's response to amend or change the gag order. The response filed was 18 pages long. Within it is Brian Kohberger's response to the media's petition to either dissolve or amend the gag order. A gag order is what prevents any information being leaked to the media through inside sources. Here's the response from Brian Kohberger. Brian Kohberger appears now to argue on his own behalf that no such hearing is required to enter an order that merely reflects long-standing rules of professional conduct, and that the no comment order in this matter is appropriate given the level of media scrutiny. The rest of the document goes on to provide examples from other cases as to why they should not amend or dissolve the gag order. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
The more I come up, the more I learn about Kohberger in this case. I'm getting the same vibes that I got with the Richard Alexander Murdaugh trial. But as always, we'll sit back and we'll wait for more evidence and everything to play through, and whatever is televised, whatever I have access to, I will bring that access to you as well. We do have an update on another high profile case. Many people have DM'd me about this and I haven't spoken about it because I didn't have any concrete information regarding updates until now. So coming from WSOCTV.com, that is WSOCTV.com, as in Sam, OC as in cat, T as in Tom, V as in Victor.com. Shanquilla Robinson case needing high-level diplomatic intervention, attorney says. It's been months since Mexican authorities announced that an arrest warrant was issued for a friend of Shanquilla Robinson after her death in Cabo San Lucas. Now, an attorney representing Robinson's family says they need diplomatic intervention from the U.S. government in order to move forward the case. Robinson was killed in late October while vacationing in Mexico, according to a Mexican prosecutor who told ABC News on November 23rd that a friend of Robinson was the direct aggressor in her death, which was officially called femicide. The friend hasn't been publicly identified, but we all know who that is. But a video surfaced showing a woman attacking Robinson inside a hotel room. Salvador Robinson, Shanquilla's mother, previously identified the people in the video as the friends her daughter accompanied on a trip to Cabo. Robinson is from Charlotte, and many of the people on the trip were from North Carolina. This is why I tell y'all, have a buddy system, and I digress. At first, friends told Robinson's family she died of alcohol poisoning, but the autopsy showed she died of a broken neck and spine. Channel 9 obtained Robinson's death certificate. It lists the cause of death as severe spinal cord injury and atlas luxation, and says she died within 15 minutes of injury. Alcohol poisoning is never mentioned. If you all remember, previous updates that I've made regarding this case and what the doctor that came to the room said that they did. Channel 9 checked with the Baja California Sir Attorney General Daniel De La Rosa Anaya in January, who said that Robinson's death investigation was ongoing. De La Rosa Anaya said his office is working with U.S. authorities. His investigators asked the U.S. for interviews with the other people who went on the trip to determine if they should face charges as well. On Wednesday, Channel 9's Joe Bruno sat down with Sue Ann Robinson, the attorney who's representing the Robinson family after she returned from Mexico, to see where the case stands. Editor's note: there's no relation between the family and their attorney. The attorney said one of her biggest takeaways is how difficult it is to get information and make inquiries about the case in Mexico. Take an interpreter with you. We weren't greeted by the consulate and taken to the Attorney General's office. We kind of had to make our way in order to get information. No shit, Sherlock. Don't nobody like the United States. We've done some fuck shit to everybody. This is why history is important. Robinson told Channel 9, we did not receive any assistance from the consulate, despite their knowledge of the protocols in Mexico that the Attorney General would require the consulate to be involved because it is a crime involving a U.S. citizen. They don't really care about us because we don't really care about them. No shade to the Robinson family. I want justice for Shanquilla. But let's be so fucking for real right now. Okay? Let's be so fucking for real right now. We had a president for 4 years that shit on Mexico. We have his sycophants that are crossing the border to meet up with cartels that are not Mexican, to bring fentanyl back into the states that Mexican residents are being blamed for. You have people from the United States of a certain complexion going over and being so entitled. You have people from the United States moving to Mexico, being so entitled and going on to social media, denigrating the citizens of this country. Let's not forget, Texas just celebrated their independence because they broke away, and they're so proud of breaking away from Mexico because Texas wanted to continue to own slaves. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think you were going to get whitewashed, make you feel all cute and cozy and cuddly inside history here? You're at the wrong channel. You're at the wrong channel. But let's break this up with some humor before we go into January 6th and CPAC. Yes, they're going to be back to back. Let's laugh, y'all.
As you can see, I'm not bothering anybody. I'm laying in my cage. And my mom just comes over and starts complaining about me pulling these pillows into my cage. So I leave, and I'm over here just resting. And she's like, doesn't my head hurt? Why is she bothering me? Yes, my head hurts because you're bothering me. So I move my bed again, get a little more comfortable. Here she comes with this dang camera again. So I pretend to be asleep. She thinks my neck hurts when it's really just my head hurting because she won't leave me alone. This time she's still complaining, but I'm using the pillow, so like, what do you want from me? Get that camera out of my face. And the feng shui was off, so I was trying to readjust my living situation, and here she comes again with this dang camera. Then I realized since she was just gonna keep messing with my feng shui, I would just look at her and then look away. Maybe she would also leave if I looked away. I moved my bed again because I kind of missed that little table situation, even though she was complaining. Got a little closer to my cage, but didn't quite like this position. My neck was hurting, but I didn't want her to know that. I finally decided to just lay there and look pitiful. Hopefully, she would just go find something else to do. She really needs a job. She really needs a hobby. She needs a life.
I feel like that's the inner voice of Sir Puppers that's over here asleep by me. Now, I'm not going to clown Sir Puppers too much because he's been good this week. Y'all have not seen him pop up and act crazy too much this week. So I'm not gonna jinx it, but before we move on to the next stories, if you know anyone from the Asian community that would like to come on and join a panel, I do realize that at the SAG Awards, the Asian community was made to feel very uncomfortable because of what they had Mark Wahlberg do. So I do not want to speak over the Asian community. I do have the clip. I do have some commentary regarding it from other members of the Asian community. So tell them to hit me up. Let's sit down and talk about it. But let's get on to CPAC 2023. And just so y'all know, Nick Fuentes, he got kicked out, y'all. Not just from CPAC, but also from his hotel. Ew.
I was a January 6th political prisoner. I got out in October. This is the first time I was able to. Thank you, guys. It's my first time I was allowed to travel since January 6th, and I thought, what's a better place to come to than CPAC? So
now they're letting in members of Antifa to CPAC and cheering them on and calling them heroes? Weird.
So the party that gassed you up to participate in Trump's self-coup, that did not come to your rescue, that's the first place you... Okay. Well, since he admitted he was involved in January 6th, because he's not a political prisoner. You broke the law, bruh. Let's get a little bit more clarification regarding this. The DOJ says it's okay to sue Trump regarding his self-coup, aka January 6th.
Breaking news. The Justice Department says it's okay for Capitol police officers who were injured on January 6th to sue Trump for damages.
So what's going on here?
It all started 2 years ago when 3 lawsuits were filed against Trump, alleging that he incited the violence that took place at the Capitol on January 6th.
Trump's lawyers have tried to get these suits dismissed because the Supreme Court has said that the president has absolute immunity from civil lawsuits from any official action taken while in office.
The reason for this immunity is that the president would be bogged down with an endless stream of lawsuits if citizens were allowed to sue.
Trump was still president when he made this speech before the January 6th riot, and he argues that addressing the public was a part of his official actions.
But the Department of Justice disagreed. They just told the court that no part of a president's official responsibilities includes inciting violence, meaning they think he's not immune.
Now, why is the DOJ even involved here? DOJ is who normally defends the president in lawsuits that arise out of official actions, even if that lawsuit carries on after they're not even president anymore.
Biden's DOJ is actually still defending Trump in one notable lawsuit, where a woman alleges that Trump raped her 25 years ago and then lied about it while in office, thus defaming her.
But the DOJ said that they're not helping here because incitement wasn't a part of his official actions. Importantly, the DOJ is not the final decision maker on this.
The headlines here are a bit misleading. The DOJ just gave their opinion.
A federal appellate court will still have to decide whether Trump is immune or not.
And he's not. He's not. Last year, I did a whole series on Monday night breaking down espionage and all the acts, and yeah, he's not. He's not. I understand people wanting to be cautious, but facts are facts. He's not immune. Get your lawsuits ready. Get your lawsuits. Get your lawsuits ready. Get your lawsuits. And class action. Oh, class action. Class action. Now, you all remember the woman at the center of the Tennessee cop sex scandal. I had some comments regarding it, but now there's new information. So, as always, I have to retract my previous statements for now because I went against my own rules, my own Gibbs rules of life. I did not have all of the information. I made comments. I do sincerely apologize. So now I'm going to do what I tell y'all to do and what I generally do, and to sit back and wait for all of the information to come out. But in all transparency, in all honesty, of course, I'm going to bring y'all some updates. So take a look, and at least for me, a lot of things that I was questioning before now make a whole lot more sense. See you in 2 and 2. Y'all know how we do.
If any of you shared memes making fun of this woman, you should be fucking ashamed of yourself. A lawsuit just came out detailing the amount of abuse that this woman went through, and fuck every single cop that was involved in this. Not only did they coordinate their sexual abuse of this woman, once she started cutting herself and attempting suicide, they were worried about getting caught and started coordinating a fucking plan to make her look like the initiator of all the sexual contact. And then it went viral and all that shit started happening. The cops were doing this on secret phones. Obviously, they're not fucking smart, and people found out about this. They were sharing unwanted photos of her. Dude, it is absolutely disgusting what they were doing to her. And the way that people reacted to the story says so much about how we fucking treat and view women in society. It's disgusting. And I hope she gets a bunch of fucking money and a bunch of fucking help in therapy, because what she went through was fucking horrible. The way society treated her was horrible. And there's a lawsuit if you want to go read it and see the terrible shit that she was put through. Did you miss the part where during the human resources investigation, one of the cops who was accused of raping her put his hands around the human resources officer and choked her to intimidate her?
Once again, before I read this article, I have to give out my sincere apologies. I made some rash judgments and I should have known better, because what I've endured in my own life. I am not making excuses. All I can do is offer an apology. And from this point forward, stick to what I normally do. I wish I could tell you why I stepped out of my normal character. Actually, I do know why I stepped outside of my normal character. Those of you all who follow me on other social media platforms, you know where I ended up for 7 days, but that is not an excuse. It is not. an excuse. I should not have taken out my anxiety and my woes on someone else, knowing how detrimental that could be. So once again, all I can do is express my sincere apologies and make sure that I honestly and earnestly and fully cover this moving forward as I have reputable updates. Now, as much as I do not like this publication, I did read this over a couple times. Here we go. Coming from the NewYorkPost.com, NYPost.com, Tennessee cop Megan Hall breaks her silence after being fired over sex scandal. I did say no. And please note when I put up quote, I'm just showing you that that's what's in the article. I'm not being facetious. A Tennessee police officer fired over her sex sprees with a slew of fellow cops says she felt terrorized, calling out her bosses for the binge. Speaking publicly for the first time, Megan Hall, 26, told WTVF she tried repeatedly to douse the sexual advances of her sergeant at the La Verge, I don't know, police department, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. The on-the-job affair with Sergeant Lewis Power led to sexual encounters with 5 other cops. You know what? This sounds very similar to my research into sex trafficking and talking to former victims of sex trafficking. A lot of the people are captains, sergeants, lieutenants within the police force. But so checks out. Now, remember I told y'all last night that the United States is truly trying to get into its shared turn back time era. We're now voting again on child labor laws. And we are now to a point where even though people are so proud of their connection to a lineage that fought against, taxation without representation, but now they're forcing taxation without representation. Not sure what I'm talking about? Pay close attention to this. And if you have children in a certain state, you might want to move.
Ballot. 5 votes, 24 yea, 9 nay, and 1 present. House Bill 1410 passes. Return to the House.
Yeah. Children cannot tell you how they identify. Children cannot, but they can be. You know what? Let's go on and discuss this United States TikTok ban that is making the rounds. And some people are freaking out and some people are not. Let's discuss why.
So a bunch of people messaged me to ask if TikTok was going to be banned. Of course, I don't know for sure. I do feel like...
I read the bill, and what this bill does is gives the President of the United States the authority to ban TikTok. Now, they know Biden's not going to ban it, but a Republican president like Trump or DeSantis, they would ban it in a minute, right? They're playing the long game with this because this app scares the shit out of them. It has nothing to do with national security, like Tizzy says in the video. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with people like him, like me, like the thousands of other creators on here calling people out for their bullshit, specifically politicians. I believe this app is, if not fully responsible for the red wave not happening. They don't want us talking. That's why Republicans want this app gone. That's why they're trying to play the long game.
We have to act now, everybody. TikTok, the ban has passed. House Republicans have.
Among the stages of fascism is to control the information and the narrative. So this is what they're setting up to do with TikTok. And unfortunately, I have to do something I don't necessarily want to do. I have to plug my YouTube account here. I started this account recently just to back up all the TikToks to YouTube. But with the possibility that TikTok might be going away altogether, I think YouTube might be the future home of perhaps the Zeitgeist Pulse. This includes uploading the lives that we're doing here on TikTok. This includes hopefully doing lives on YouTube if they are removing TikTok, and somehow integrating other means of communication so that...
Let me explain something to you. I've been on social media since there was social media. I have been on the internet since people didn't, as we have now, there was not a home computer or multiple home computers in homes. I have been there for dial-up. I've been there for all of that. Okay. I've been there for the AOL disk, all of that. Okay. I've also been through when things have happened in the government or mainstream media, and as much as conservatives try to tell you that the media is controlled by liberals, it is not. Every media outlet is owned and run by a conservative GOP member. Every single one of them. And I've seen narratives be put out. And even on Facebook, people tried to put out lives like, hey, I'm right here while this is happening. Let me tell you, it wasn't really hitting because you're typing it out. And when you type things out, people use their internal voices, if they have an internal voice, to decipher things. So you may not get the severity, depending on where you are in your day, depending on the type of person you are. TikTok allows people to bring intonation, emotion, and everything else to you, along with facts, historical context, and real life in real time, showing you that what you've historically been told has been bullshit. Because even with me doing this podcast live multiple days of the week, I still have to draw from things that are pre-recorded. I can't really do live video because I don't know how the live video was going to end up. And even in times where I've done live reviews of shows and things like that, social media platforms shut that shit down expeditiously. That's why they want to eliminate it. And when I say they, it's the Republican Party. Because yes, it went through the House that has a slim majority. No Democrat voted in favor of this. So now it goes to the Senate. And we know Biden isn't going to be like, yeah, let me sign off on this. Biden doesn't care about the truth getting out. Biden has no problem with checks and balances. He has no problem with being told that he's fucking up. No problem with it. But you know who does? And see, the Republican Party thinks more of themselves than they do, because right now CPAC is looking like a Trump University graduation, empty as hell. And right now, with all the girls within the GOP fighting, they're split 10 ways to Sunday. And they're consistently splitting themselves even more. Because let's not forget the heightened evangelical presence. And we have Mr. Peterson online in the wee hours of the morning fighting with the Pope. Take a look.
Hey everybody, at 1 o'clock this morning, Jordan Peterson decided to take on the Pope on Twitter.
A little over a week ago, the Pope tweeted that social justice demands that we fight against the causes of poverty. And Dr. Peterson tweeted, there is nothing Christian about social justice. Redemptive salvation is a matter of the individual soul. Now, there's a sense in which Dr. Peterson is right and a sense in which Dr. Peterson is wrong. Dr. Peterson is right insofar as he conceptualizes Christianity as that Christo-fascist faction within Christianity, that individualistic, selfish, greedy renegotiation of the Christian gospel, which does not remotely constitute all of Christianity, but it's absolutely there. Now, Dr. Peterson is wrong in the sense that there is not a single syllable of Christian scripture that supports the notion that salvation is achievable in the absence of, and even in opposition to, social justice. Social justice is all over the Bible. It's all over the Hebrew Bible. It's all over the New Testament. The gospel authors repeatedly represent Jesus as condemning a refusal to engage in social justice. So while there is absolutely a Christo-fascist faction within the broader world of Christianity that thinks this way, that thinking is a direct rejection of the gospel as presented in Christian scripture. It's just contemporary right-wing authoritarian identity politics.
See, tyrannical evangelists love to quote certain parts of the Bible, but see, they don't want to quote the part of the Bible while Jesus went into the sanctuary and flipped everything over because they were being secular in a holy place, just like there are churches that will hold bingo and other secular activities within there. And a lot of people, especially within the United States, this is why I say religion within the United States is so bastardized, it is ridiculous. But they want to condemn other countries for their views on religion and how they want to live their life, how hypocritical and how... Anywho, because they're definitely not bringing the sunshine in our life. But they are not the lifeline. But you're going to say that you can't stand for social justice because it's individualized, where Jesus didn't stand for individualism. But I want y'all to Google something for me so you can understand a little bit more about Jordan Peterson and other people that are like-minded with him. Just Google Jordan Peterson Grandma Dream. Jordan Peterson Grandma Dream. I would read it to you. I would go into detail, but people are already reporting me for copyright infringements when I'm not using any copywritten material. But if I talk about that, I am going to get flagged every which way to Sunday. But go ahead and do that. And then get back with me tomorrow night. Now, keeping with the tyrannical evangelist, thou that protests too much doth too much.
Well, what do you know? After Republican Nate Schatzline from Texas wrote a bill to restrict drag shows, a new video has just surfaced of him dressed in drag while skipping through a park wearing a black dress. Why does this always happen with the Republican Party? I mean, you got this guy, you got George Santos. These are people who oppose drag shows, but then dressed in drag themselves. I mean, this guy clearly supports drag, so I don't know why he's trying to outlaw it.
Just a really quick history lesson. Republican. The only dangerous drag queen in history was Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, who dressed like a woman to try and escape the Union Army. He failed. Yeah, your little Confederate hero was a drag queen. Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, a lot of your favorite heroes were women in drag. Y'all are so up in arms, but y'all still play Mulan for your kids. But anywho, we still have more to get through, but we still have the Sunday sit down. So I will see you all tomorrow for the Sunday sit down. And like I said, give me a moment or two, and then I'll see you over on the Ticker Talk to continue talking about the phenomenon that is blackfishing. And as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Y'all be blessed. And y'all always never digress, always progress.